You're tuning in to the Black Hollywood Live Network, featuring news, interviews, and commentary on all things Black Hollywood. Hollywood redefined. From Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is Black Hollywood Live, Geek Nerd Tech, featuring a weekly roundup of tech news and gossip. Black Hollywood Live, Hollywood redefined.
You're listening to Black Hollywood Live.
And now, the host for Black Hollywood Live, Geek Nerd Tech.
Welcome to Geek Nerd Tech, the show we break down nerd culture and tech news from a brown and black geek perspective.
Damn, you knocked it out the park.
What? Only took me 6 to 8 weeks. I'm Joe Braswell. I'm joined, as always, by my man Achilles Shine.
In the building, man.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How was your week?
It was good. It was good. A lot of news, a lot of tech news.
Absolutely.
We're packed. We have no guests today, but we do have a lot of stuff to discuss. It seems like it's weird because the year is winding down, but in the tech world, it's like news is launching. It's like This is the end of the fourth quarter, but people are launching a bunch of stuff and trying things out. It just makes me think about the evolution of sort of the way the tech cycle doesn't necessarily follow with the mainstream normal.
That's true.
Corporate cycles. And one of the main things we want to start with, we're going to do some quick news hits, and then we'll talk about some things that we'll have some fun with some things that broke the internet this week, some things that just happened this week that just melted down Twitter and everything else, and then we'll do our normal welcome to the future. We don't have Steve Lemmy to do a live drop, but we'll do that, and then we'll have a little discussion about what's going on with Uber and Airbnb in terms of just people being really mad about that and wanting the government to step in and do something about those companies. But first, let's talk about some new stuff that happened, some new shit.
Oh yeah.
Instagram Direct launched on Thursday. Yesterday.
Yes.
Wow. That's it. Okay. Yeah. So Instagram Direct launched on Thursday, and it took me like a minute. I'm like, Instagram Direct. Okay. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, oh. So I had levels of like, oh, this is gonna be cool. Do you want to say what Instagram Direct is?
I mean, in the most simplistic explanation, it's just a photo messaging service. So if you want to send the homie a private photo or video, it provides that service for you.
Right. And
if you want to have a discussion about that photo or that piece of content privately, and you want to say things that may not be appropriate publicly or that are more sensitive to your relationship, then you can.
Right.
And so I think it customized the way we communicate in the sense that we don't have to be as worried about people spying on our stuff, because you have a lot of people that are stalkers on Instagram and just don't follow you, but will definitely see every photo and video you post and may not ever make a comment. They're called ghost followers.
Right.
And so I mean,
ghosts.
This allows you to have more of an intimate connection through this social media service.
Right. And I think that the first thought I had was like, so now my Instagram game is broke. My Instagram is really not good at all. I got like 2 pictures. I got one like a me and Bob Newhart, and then one me like covering Lamar Odom outside of a courthouse for extra.
But I thought you had a whole collection of selfies.
I did my selfie collection. I haven't made it to Instagram yet. So I really got to step my Instagram. But I think my main issue with that is I'm still, I feel like I'm a tech savvy guy, but I'm also a private guy. So the whole sharing thing, picture-wise, Twitter's one thing, but picture-wise is something I'm trying to get used to. And why I love this is because it allows me to just check this out, Achilles, check out this burger, check this out, I love the idea of that. But so I thought that was cool for me, and then that's a cool tool. But then my other aha moment with this was like, oh, this officially ends Facebook's pursuit of Snapchat.
Yeah.
Facebook.
It's the answer to Snapchat.
It's their answer to Snapchat. It was like their move because they were trying to develop something early on. They tried to buy Snapchat. Famously, we talked about that, and then those stupid kids turned it down for $3 billion. I still don't know what they're thinking. And then so what does Facebook do? We already own Instagram. Let's develop something with an established brand that can compete with Snapchat and also do more. Yeah. So I thought that was a brilliant move.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know, I mean, again, Snapchat is for millennials and it's being used by a lot of different kids. But like Instagram is so mainstream and ingrained in our culture that who knows?
I think it's cool too because like in this sense, if there's like a party that I'm promoting and I only want special people to go, typically with Instagram I would post a flyer on Instagram and everyone would see it.
Right.
But now I can send it directly to my friends and keep the riffraff from coming through to the party.
Absolutely.
That's kind of cool.
Absolutely. I think that and the last thing which is cool about this, I mean, well, for Instagram is that it's my last aha was like it's really it also answers their dilemma on trying to figure out what to do about brands. This is going to be a huge tool for brands and marketing. I mean, these 15-second videos will be a huge, it'll just help them figure out ways, and they're already thinking about ways to help sell shit to you.
I mean, as a marketer myself, how I utilize Instagram for some of my clients with the 15-second video spots is like really developing like episodic content on Instagram.
Right.
And definitely, piggyback on what you said in terms of brands doing that, like, especially that there's going to be a proliferation of that. Brands are going to be doing that immensely.
Cool.
And I mean, I think Instagram, out of all the social media properties, I think Instagram's my favorite.
Well, it's my favorite too, and it's my favorite. I don't use it, but it's my favorite ideally because
conceptually,
is my favorite. And I think what's interesting about it is we'll talk about later on the death of Facebook. We'll talk about it later in the show. But for all this talk of Facebook is Facebook, it's all about Instagram. Well, guess what? Facebook owns Instagram,
of course.
So it's not Facebook's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. But the other thing that happened this week is Twitter. Every week we have something about Twitter. Twitter happens every week. They're going public. They're doing this. This week they're in the news because they were named the best place to work, which is great. And this is a title that usually for years and years you'd always go to Google every year, like Google, the Google campus. Yeah, it was like Google, and then I think last year it went to
Facebook. It was Facebook
was
for
it
3
Facebook?
years.
Yeah, Facebook the last 3 years, right? And then LinkedIn's always been kind of number 2.
Yeah.
But now Google, that's the campus over there. I think it's on 5th and Howard, right in San Francisco. Is the number 1 place to work? Which
I mean Twitter.
Sorry, Twitter. That's the Twitter campus, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, I don't know. It's funny because these tech companies are where it's at in terms of they really have it in terms of people say that we work in the Hollywood system and the studio system and TV shows and production offices. Production offices a lot of times aren't that glamorous. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't.
Absolutely.
But what they do in these Silicon Valley companies are always this mix between the coolest production company and the coolest software company, and you've got it's
a lot of breaking the rules, like in what you would think how a traditional company would operate. Like a lot of these tech companies are very loose in terms of their culture that they create for their employees, and they're able to do things and have access to things that you wouldn't find in a traditional company or firm.
Right.
But I mean, kind of speaking to what you just said, like in terms of Glassdoor's annual list, 50 of the top best companies to work for, 22 of those companies are tech companies.
Yeah.
So that says a lot in terms of the culture, the general culture that's being created at these companies. And it doesn't really surprise me that Twitter's number 1. I mean, they had a huge year in terms of their IPO and just what they've been doing, innovating with their products and services and just the growth of the company. So it makes sense that they're doing something right over there.
Well, and it does, but that also speaks to sort of what the values are, because back in, early few years ago, when everyone was, talking about Google's best place to work, it was all about they got a pizza bar and they've got a massage therapy, and they got a video game room and all this other stuff. But now it's not so much about the perks. It's more, not those physical perks. It's more about things like, hey, they have this IPO and they let us all share in it, and they're taking care of us. Their healthcare is the best. Their stock options
it's like
are the
a
best.
family environment.
Exactly, and that's what that it seems like like how the priorities have changed as opposed to like they've got the best video game room.
But I think like I'm an entrepreneur. I don't really do the 9-to-5 thing, but if I were to do it, I would want that type of environment. I would want that type of structure where I felt like I was a part of what I'm dedicating 8+ hours a day to.
Right.
And so I think the authenticity of a company, that speaks to why you would want to work for a company, because you feel like you're a part of something that's bigger than yourself.
Right.
So.
Well, congratulations, Twitter. We don't work there, but it looks like a lovely spot. So moving on. So Imager is in the news. I mean, do you? Okay, so a lot of people don't know what Imager is.
Yeah.
Like, do you use it? Do you know
I don't use it. I know what it is. I've been on the site. I've seen it on the mobile devices, but I mean, I'm good. I'm Instagram.
Can you explain?
Team Instagram.
I always do this to you. Can you explain to the people what Imager is?
I mean, Imager essentially is a photo hosting site.
Right.
And you're able to, put all different types of formats of photos up on the site. It could be a TIFF, it could be a JPEG, it could be a GIF.
Yep.
And so you're able to
GIF, TIFF.
I know, right? Yeah. So you're essentially able to, host your photos there, and they stay there for free. as long as you press them or interface with them within 6 months.
So what happens? Why this is so? This is why this is in the news is because Yahoo is making a play to buy Imager, which is a company that sort of just kind of went from nowhere to everywhere in a very short time.
In like 6 months.
In like 6 months,
yeah.
And people, it's funny because people are like Imager, it's Imager.
Yeah, they fuck it up.
But what's interesting about it is, it just speaks to the proliferation of the internet and all this other stuff, because you have like Dig and Reddit and of course Twitter are like everything we do, talk about shareability and all these things, especially on Reddit and Dig, is all about funny photos, sharing funny photos, memes, meme creators, all this stuff. That's all Imager is all about that. So Yahoo is all about it. So we'll see what happens there. But it's just interesting. It's just one of these sort of it's one of these internet success stories. As they were around, I think they launched in like 2010 or 9 or something like that, but they really just had an explosion here in the last year. And so you create something, someone will buy it.
True that.
That's the story.
I think the cool thing about Imager is that you don't have to compress the photos. So from a photographer's perspective, like that's cool, because you want your art and your creativity to be displayed in the highest light. And so with a lot of these social media companies like Facebook, Instagram, like it compresses the shit out of the photos.
Right.
And so with Imager, you get all the details, you get all the colors, you get all of that. I mean, that's cool.
It's interesting too, like again, all these so many ways. I mean, like to share photos. I mean, it seems like the internet has become from information, sharing information in words and text, to evolved into now sharing photos, right? Like sharing photos, whether it's Instagram or Flickr or any of these other services. And then now, and Facebook is basically was really a photo-based photo sharing service. And then now we're moving into the world of Vine and Instagram, where they're sharing video. So it's just interesting the way this whole thing is happening and the way we're sharing information.
Absolutely.
And what it's worth, because we're talking about Imager may go for $1.something billion. So good for them.
I mean, they almost have as many users as Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
And so moving on, so we have speaking of being bought and things that are making money, there's my man Shane from Vice. Vice Media, which I think was evaluated at like $3.9 billion. Vice was started a few years back as a zine, just a zine
in the mid-90s.
In the mid-90s, is a zine. I remember it. I remember around San Francisco and here in New York, and obviously, we're not going to go on the whole story of Vice, but it's grown into basically a multimedia behemoth. The site is a beast. They do all kinds of video content,
transmedia.
It's a transmedia beast, and what they've done is, and they've stepped back into the broadcast world, or technically the cable world, with he partnered with Bill Maher and did the Vice TV show, which is a good sort of very interesting news magazine for our generation, our generation 60 Minutes, if you will. But that's not enough for this guy, Shane.
Smart.
But what they've done now is they've purchased a company called Carrot Creative.
Yeah.
And not a very well-known company, no one really knows it, but I mean, in terms of the mainstream folks.
Obviously. But most mainstream folks don't know ad agencies or creative agencies anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough. But why this is news is because they bought this because they are trying to figure out how to get their content to everyone. And what Carrot Creative has done is they're really experts at getting at owning these small screens and second screens and third screens. So they've done great, really cool campaigns. They have great software for iPhones and iPads and your computer, and getting this in apps, essentially making these cool apps that you can go out and distribute this content. And Vice has a shitload of content that they're trying to get to the world. So, it's a weird sort of backdoor way into getting in everyone's home, because if you get on everyone's smartphone or everyone's iPad, and you have this brand, then you're everywhere.
I mean, I think it's just a convergence of tech company and an ad agency, and when I read the story, it made me think of a creative agency that I used to work for called Amusement Park, and the guy there, the owner there, his name is Jimmy Smith, and he was trying to essentially create a sports agency that was also a creative agency at the same time.
Right.
And so I think this is very similar to that. Like you have a convergence of, you know, all your editorial content, you know, your broadcast, your television, and then your mobile. And now you have a creative agency that's going to do that for you in-house. I think that's really innovative.
Right.
Very smart.
It's very smart. So I mean, props to him. I don't know what's next. I mean, I fear this man. I mean, I love him, but he's like Bezos. We're talking about buying the post office and revolutionize the way we deliver package. He's revolutionized the way we sort of consume media. And media and the type of media we consume. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll stay on the lookout for Vice Media, who's doing it all. So now, just the last thing is, you know, this comes up every 3-4 months. The death of Facebook. This is an article we saw, and I saw it and I kind of laughed. But you know, people are really, you know, can't wait to sort of pounce on the demise of Facebook, and frankly, the numbers, you know, are down. I mean, they're you know, Facebook is not what it used to be, and all the new things they seem to be trying, you know, from a aren't necessarily having the boom that it needs to be. It seems to be losing, you know, some market share and some users. I mean, not losing users, but using like down 40% here and 30% in the other categories. But the main thing is just a cultural shift. It's a cultural shift because people talk about, you know, Facebook being the choice of young millennials and young Generation Y at the time when it dropped, but now it's not the choice of millennials. Like my grandmother's on Facebook, my mom's on Facebook,
of course,
you know, and that's who's using it. But more importantly, they talk about like Facebook brand pages suffer a 44% decline.
Yeah.
You know, Facebook admits you finally do have to pay for your ads. It really becomes about them trying to figure out a way to monetize and continue to monetize Facebook, and it seems like people are rejecting it.
Yeah, I mean, because you have two schools of thought. You have the people that, you know, hop on Facebook just to post pictures and interface with their friends, and, you know, kind of like a more interpersonal connection.
Right.
And then you have the brands that want to be able to communicate to those people. And most people on Facebook don't want to be communicated that way. They don't care about, you know, what the next product is or an ad. They're deaf, dumb, and blind to that. They close up to that. So I feel, I mean, in that sense, it's not a good strategy for Facebook to be so direct in terms of how they, you know, promote, you know, their ads towards people. But in the sense that a company should be more innovative in how they communicate, you know, their initiatives or their products, they need to be more personal and more open to like the conversation with, you know, the people that support them versus being so direct and so, like, you know, trying to shove it down people's throats.
Right. So
I think that's the problem. Like, people are more sophisticated now and more intelligent they can see past it. Like, okay, that's an ad, I'm good. Next.
Yeah. And so it's really interesting. I think I wonder about it's the thought for me is, like, you know, culturally Facebook has to continue to reinvent itself, but it's by the world that it lives in a space that it's, you know, it's yesterday's news. I mean, it's the internet, so it only is as fresh as its next thing. And as revolutionizing as Facebook was to our entire way of life, to a certain degree, sometimes in history, that's your job to do. Sometimes you create electricity, and then it's everyone else's job to figure out how to use that.
Right.
You create the light bulb; it's everyone's figure out. You know, sometimes it's your job to maybe revolutionize. And I don't know. I feel like Facebook it may have to really, really reinvent itself. But one way of doing that is purchasing companies like Instagram and purchasing other companies and sort of like still being relevant.
I mean, I think when you grow to a certain height, like, it's inevitable for you to start to have weaknesses and for smaller units to be, you know, more competitive. And we talked about like, what's the best place to work? That was one of the criticisms of why Facebook moved from number 1 to number 3, is because they're so large now. So that culture that they created when they first started has shifted.
Because early on, like, Mark Zuckerberg would be in the corner coding, he's on the floor hanging out, and now it's like, you know,
it's like thousands of employees. Like,
it's an Ivy Tower somewhere.
Exactly.
Like Phil. Just kidding.
So a lot of things get lost. A lot of things maybe don't get communicated in the way that it should.
Right.
Versus a smaller faction that can, you know, pinpoint exactly what they want to do and how they're going to be innovative.
Right. Very true. Very true. Actually, Phil's always here with the people, by the way. Phil's in the mix. So that's that. So that's Facebook. I want to talk about, we're going to move forward now in a very awkward segue, but I'm going to do it anyway, to some stories that sort of effed up the internet. The internet was blew up in a lot of different ways, and it happens it happens once a week. So we'll cover this once a week. There's that one or two things that happen that like the internet goes nuts over, and one of them happened yesterday. At what, midnight? Was it midnight yesterday?
It was maybe East Coast, but
it feels like today is
midnight on the East Coast.
Yeah. East
okay.
Coast, yeah.
Thank you. So Beyonce dropped an album like out of the blue, just not even almost Jay-Z style. Jay-Z kind of did it this way. There's no, back in the old days, it was your record company spent a shitload of money in advanced production coming December 13th.
You have a single release.
A single.
You work the single for a few weeks, maybe months,
right?
And then you drop the album. You have the video first, and then you drop the album,
right?
Yeah, so.
But what Beyonce did was like sneak attack, like, oh hey fans, here it is, my album's out, which is. It's a very, very amazing story. It's a marketing story. It's a music industry story. It's a pop culture story, but it also is very much a tech story because of the way she released the album exclusively and kind of the way the album's available, and B, she's done something revolutionary and she's calling this a visual album as well.
I think it's dope on multiple levels. Like, she shut down iTunes.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
but I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Like, for her not to use the traditional, conventional ways of marketing an album, like, she has a built-in audience.
She doesn't need that.
Like, she doesn't need to do that.
And these are millions and millions of marketing dollars that are saved. And
exactly.
And frankly, this is a big talk in the TV world, in my world as well. Is like, a lot of times you can let the internet exist, whether it's Twitter or sort of all these social media services exist to sort of help you.
Yeah.
Companies don't have to spend. If you can do a very smart campaign, the Sound of Music Live thing was a perfect example of that. If you can do a very smart marketing campaign, people will start to talk about it. People start to talk about it via Twitter and everything else, and the money you would spend in millions of dollars in marketing, people do your work for you.
Well, not just that. You take that marketing budget and you put that into your product budget. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what she did. That's why there's videos for each song. Yeah. Which makes the product way more valuable.
Sure. Which
makes people want to be more interested. Oh, I want to hear it and see it, and now I want to share it. There's more ways that they can share it and interface with it. It's just smart on multiple levels.
Very smart. So it's shareable. It's listenable, it's all these things, and it's delivered via iTunes. Now, Jay-Z did a very similar thing. He sort of just dropped his album, but he did have an advanced run up to that via Samsung, which was mildly successful. I think the campaign was probably more successful than the album itself, although I like the record. But Beyonce, I'm really, really, really excited about that. I did cop the album. I haven't bought it yet, I haven't listened yet, obviously, because the shit just came out. But I'm very excited. Do you have it yet?
No, I don't. I haven't. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I saw all the Twitter stuff and Facebook posts. Yeah. I mean, but I'm not the type of guy that's gonna run to get the Beyonce album. Oh, I mean, I'm a fan.
Shots fired at Joe Braswell.
I'm a fan of Beyonce.
I ain't like you. I don't just run out and get Beyonce. I'm way cooler than that. I'm Achilles Shine.
I'm a super fan of Beyonce, but I'm not like at 10 o'clock at night, oh my God, Beyonce album.
What? What?
I'll catch that on the weekend.
I'll tell you what, brother. I'll help you out. I'll play some tracks for you after the show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I also have breaking news, guys.
Uh-oh, breaking news.
Well, two things, actually. One, I think BHL is the best place to work for in the world.
Yes, I agree.
Second, though, although Black Hollywood Live wasn't in the running for this because of deadlines and timelines, you know how that works. So this next year they'll be nominated. But this year, AfterBuzz TV has been nominated for 3 awards at the International Academy of Web Television for Best Live hosted series and best host.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's fantastic. Congratulations to AfterBuzz TV, our sister network, which I do some couple shows on, and we're very, very excited about that. That's breaking news.
Yeah,
Thanks, Phil. That's good. Well, BHL will be there next year for sure. I know that, and the show will rake in thousands of awards. Just kidding. So congratulations to AfterBuzz on that, and Maria and Kevin and Phil and all of us who do such hard work on there. All right, so that didn't break the internet, but what also did break the internet is this Obama story. Obama took this at Nelson Mandela's memorial, took this picture of himself with where is she?
I think it was the Danish
Prime
Minister.
Ministers, and people lost their MF minds for multiple reasons, obviously. And then also the meme of the century, of course, is Michelle's reaction, which is always overblown. I mean, you know, as a black woman, poor Michelle gets gets up in her eye and it's like, oh, there she goes.
She got an attitude.
The black woman with an attitude, looking at something in her eye. But you know, like Barbara Bush was the meanest looking woman ever. She never got so much shit as Michelle Obama for being a mean.
Right.
But whatever. So people had a lot of fun with this meme of Michelle Obama being pissed. But what do you make of this? First of all, what's your take on the whole phenomenon of Michelle Obama, the selfie, the blah blah blah, the internet phenomenon of how it broke?
I mean, the whole Michelle Obama spin to it is a fabrication. Moments before Obama took the photo, she was doing similar things. She was interacting, having fun with people. So she said in the interview that the photographer who took this photo just caught her, you know, with a wrong stare.
Sure.
So as it relates,
don't tell that to the internet.
I know
the internet was already.
Of course, they want to trying to polarize it and make make it into something.
Sure.
In terms of like Obama taking selfies at Mandela's memorial, like I personally don't have a problem with it. Like I mean, because he's the president, he can't have fun, he can't have a good time. Like they're celebrating Mandela. It's not a somber moment. There's people dancing and singing and I mean people are celebrating him, like celebrating his life. Like
contextually, it's not like it wasn't like there's we'll bow our head in prayer for Mandela, and he's like, yo, and you need some context, which you don't have, which the internet doesn't provide context ever. But
I don't expect the president of the United States to be so rigid that he can't let his hair down and have fun. Like I mean, we live in a technological world. Like, hey, he doesn't have an iPhone, so I mean, it's like, man, he's like, yo, I get to take a selfie with the prime minister.
sure ain't doing it with that whack ass BlackBerry he's got. There's that. So there's that element of it, and frankly, you have cameras on you at all times. Like, so he can't pick his nose, he can't sneeze, he can't blink.
He's human.
He can't do anything without someone goes, oh, Obama, not enough.
Yeah.
Obama blinked. So I get that. What about, I just do want to touch about, what about the whole sort of racial aspect that's been played up too? Like, Michelle don't like him taking pictures of that white girl, or why is he sitting so close to her? What?
I mean,
those
are just polarizing statements, man. It's just to create, the conversation. Is to create a negative spin for the Obamas and his presidency and his legacy. Like it's anything to distract people from what's really going on in the world. Exactly. Like, man, he's taking a photo. You do it every day. Like, why are you tripping? Like,
I love these breaking the internet stories because it speaks to our culture and how we just flip out something for sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's 10 days, but this was a big story. So, but other things that broke the internet, without going into were all these summer trailers debuted, because we're in sort of Oscar time, Christmas movie time, and traditionally when the Christmas movies hit, the summer trailers debut. This shit happens earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier. And we were at Comic-Con. Both of us were at Comic-Con. We saw a lot of these debuts back in July at Comic-Con, but we actually seen some real footage of stuff that are completed, and there's some hot ones out there, like Spider-Man 2.
I'm really excited about this, John. I think it's going to be a killer.
Me too. Yeah. I mean, I'm really, really excited about this Spider-Man 2 trailer because so much happens in it. And please check it out. We're not going to show it here and talk about it here because of time, but we'll talk about it. I'm going to show it. But it's really, really great. Now, one of the immediate criticism that we hear, or people are concerned, is it too many villains? Because we see Electro, obviously, Jamie Foxx's Electro in a very cool translucent dome, looking like crazy and good. We see Paul Giamatti as the Rhino in this like gigantic sort of mech Rhino, which looks crazy, which is not like the old comic book Rhino with like doing a Rhino suit, which looks ridiculous. And we also see the rebirth of, looks like the Goblin's back, right?
Yeah.
So I
think this is going to be probably one of the biggest ones for the franchise. I mean, for the Spider-Man franchise,
right?
It looks crazy.
It looks crazy. I mean, what they're able to do effects-wise and everything else-wise, and I do love. I do love Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker. I like the younger, sort of like wiry, Peter Parker, and Andrew Garfield, a British guy again. All these British dudes, but he's an amazing actor. I love that kid, so I'm really excited about that.
Let me ask you guys this. It's one thing for the trailers, but the people are also announcing like 2016 summer lineup of like when exactly certain movies are going to hit. hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Studios are picking dates already because it's that competitive.
Yeah, that's. I mean, as a consumer, it's sort of ridiculous for us as a consumer. But what happens is in the studio level, as we know, is that like you have to get the. There's only so much real estate available.
Of course.
So these release dates are super important, and as studios spend more and more money on these big tentpole event movies, which is really the balance has shifted to like they're making less and less like normal adult little movies and all big giant movies where you release your giant movies in the summer. There's only so many days in the summer. You can't release Spider-Man 2, 3 on the same day as Avengers 3. So yeah, so people are like it sucks now, Phil, but like yeah, people are staking out their claim early. Like
you got to think of the families that go to see these movies in the summer. They only have a certain amount of dollars to spend for their kids, and so you can't release them at the same time. So there's a lot of strategy that's involved in terms of how you release it, because you want to maximize, the ears and eyes and the dollars. So
I think that for the consumer, what it does do is it does keep us all excited. I mean, especially the whole Marvel campaign, Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4, the Marvel. Like, I mean, you go to the Comic-Con in San Diego and then New York, and you get sort of like more and more information further and further out.
It's like a journey,
but it helps you stay invested in the brand
exactly
until they F up. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. But what else? Oh, we had what else? What other movies did we have there? I think we had what are the releases besides Spider-Man 2? What's next? What's next in there? We had Edge of Tomorrow. We had which is the new Tom Cruise movie, which looks amazing as well. More mech, giant suits, people battling. That trailer looks crazy. We had Godzilla, the Godzilla trailer, which we saw a little bit of that. Again, we saw the stuff at Comic-Con, but the Godzilla trailer, I mean, the Halo jump with red tracer flares, I was in. That's all you need to see. Like, into a foggy San Francisco. That looks crazy. Really, really great.
I like the Jupiter Ascending one, too. That one's kind of fresh, too.
Jupiter Ascending is fresh. But, I'm a big Wachowski brothers, Wachowski siblings now, because one of them is now a woman. But, like, I'm a big Wachowski fan, obviously, from the Matrix movies. And I really was one of the one guys who loved the very polarizing Cloud Atlas. I really loved it. Some people had a problem with it.
Right.
But looking at this, I do kind of have a little like, this could be the Matrix, or it could be John Carter. Yeah. So
it could go either way.
So I'm looking at it,
but it looks cool though.
It looks cool, but like I'm like, ooh,
I don't know if it's that bad as John Carter. That's kind of bad.
It's what's the whole, I don't know. The scope. Sometimes when the scope is like, this is my John Carter problem. Sometimes you can have the scope can be too big.
Right.
From Earth to Jupiter and everything in between. Eons, and it's like, all right, slow down. Anyway, so yeah, that's that. Well, that's the internet. I want to also thank you all for joining us here on Geek Nerd Tech on iTunes. If you listen to us now, you've probably downloaded us on iTunes, which means you've found and are listening to Black Hollywood Live, as you should be, and then you are also choosing to listen to us on Geek Nerd Tech, as we are very thankful of. If you can continue to rate us and listen to us, review us. It helps other people find us. It helps us, be known and around here and with you guys. And also, if you're watching us on YouTube, we're available on YouTube as well. If you want to see what we look like, one of us is very good looking. And if you want to, one of us, and also you can find us on BlackHollywoodLive.com along with a number of other wonderful shows.
Absolutely.
So, but thank you for listening on iTunes. But I want to get into, we have so much stuff, and I want to get to this Welcome to the Future, or Welcome to the Future segment. What's that drop? How's that drop go?
Welcome to the future.
I think we're behind on slides. These are still the rest of our movie slides. I think we're yep, Godzilla, and then boom, there it is, the brain cam.
It's ridiculous.
So, welcome to the future. So, we talk. We've been talking a lot about wearable technology, obviously. With the watches and the Google Glass and everything else. Well, there's a new prototype that's happening, of course, in Japan. That is we talked last week about the brain cap.
Yeah.
This is a camera prototype that actually is going to. The notion is it's going to be able to take pictures and also create GIFs. Based on your I can't even explain it properly. Based on your
electrical impulses.
Electrical impulses. It's called the NeuroCam, right?
Yeah, the NeuroCam.
The NeuroCam.
Developed by Neuroware. And essentially it reads your emotions, because when you have a certain emotion based on what you see visually, it creates an electrical impulse in your brain. So they have a range from 0 to 100. And if the electrical impulse reaches 60, like it'll essentially turn on the camera, and it'll, what you see out of your eye, it will, capture and turn into a GIF. And then you're able to tag it based on the emotion, based on where you are.
Like later, not like tag it mentally, not like you're like.
No. It does it autonomously. You don't click it, you don't press a button, you don't tell it. It just does it based on what's being sent from your brain.
So I think the theory is if we're hanging out here and Phil busts in the room with a chainsaw, and I'm like, oh, and then it starts recording.
Yeah, because the impulses probably went to like 100.
Right.
You got scared, and so it's recording.
Right. Or Phil busts in the room with a bikini, and I'm like, oh. then it starts recording, and then deleting, hopefully. But yeah, I don't know. That doesn't seem real.
I think it's very real. Why not? Why doesn't it seem real to you?
Because I'm not embracing this future tech. It's scaring the crap out of me. That is incredible. So but this is something that just it doesn't like drill into your forehead. It just attaches to your forehead.
It's able to read those impulses just by being attached. And I think a lot of the wearable technology devices that we see being developed are going to have this, because it's going to be a synergy between your thoughts and your emotions and the technology. Because if you feel a certain way, the technology is going to adapt to how you feel. Just like we were talking last week, if you feel cold, like there's going to be wearable technology that sends something to something that says, hey, well, you need some heat.
Wow.
And I think these are where the products are going.
Interesting. And how that will shrink, and in the future, like there'll be contacts, and and when you get pulled over by the cops and they start messing with you, you can start. Yeah.
That's what this company Neuroware. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to work with the design and make it a little smaller, a little bit more cooler.
Wow. Yeah, because that's not exactly the coolest looking thing in the world.
No, I mean, if you look at Google Glass, it's not that far from Google Glass.
Sure, but you can't wear that and Google Glass at the same time.
Yeah, Google Glass, that on like the brain cap,
RoboCop, the brain cap. Okay, so the other thing that popped up, it's been talked about, is this Google driverless car, and people are going nuts. We talked last week about the Jeff Bezos' drones, his delivery drones, not to be outdone by Google's driverless car. And they're really dead serious about this. Google they've talked to multiple car companies, and really they want to get these things on the road as taxis,
taxis,
as taxis. Like look, they've done all kinds of crazy work with all their Google Maps and mapping out every street in America and a lot of streets in the entire world, and they feel pretty confident about. From that, from doing that for, I don't know, 8 years, they feel very confident about maybe using that same satellite technology and these cars, and to be able to go anywhere and do anything. It's a GPS thing perfected. What do you think about this?
I mean, it's taking this is exactly what we talked about last week. It's taking the autonomy away from
welcome to the future
humans and giving more autonomy to machines.
Right.
I mean, and I get the pluses and minuses. The plus is that you are able to hop in the car and chill, and work on whatever you need to work on, or interface with whatever you need to interface, and not worry about driving in traffic or worry about the stresses of all of that.
Driver being judged when you throwing back your beer
or whatever,
or making out with your girl,
whatever. But then on the flip side of it is so they're developing these Google cars so they can curate your experience as you're being driven around.
Right.
So maybe the Google car is taking you a certain route in front of certain companies, in front of business fronts, or maybe there's an ad, on the screen in the car that's communicating a certain product to you.
That
or
is the issue.
And not just that, you're on your tablet and you're searching Google more than you would be because you're driving. You don't have that time to do it.
Well, that's one of the articles, and there's a lot of articles and kind of talking about this. But one of the big things that I read that article too about, people were saying this is Google's way of getting you to stay on their screens more, because obviously within this car there'll be a free Google screen, and you'll be Googling and searching and using Chrome and and using Gmail and basically staying engaged while in your Google car on Google, driving past ad places, or you can Google where's the nearest pizza spot, and then if they have a deal with that pizza spot or the movie premiere, and it's a lot. It's a larger way to sort of monetize, disguised in a way to sort of help help the consumer, but I don't know.
I don't know if I feel safe in a car that drives itself, because if it can drive itself, it could lock me in there.
Sure.
Like if I want to get out, like no, you can't get out.
Right.
Like I feel like I'd be a slave to that machine. And I feel like some of the cars are already like that. Like there's GPS stuff in cars that sends stuff to these companies, and they report where your car is going.
Of course, like OnStar pioneered that stuff, and I mean all the luxury cars, Lexus and BMW and Cadillac and Mercedes all have self-drive modes, falling asleep modes, parallel parking modes. So I mean we're close.
I mean. It's insane to me. But the positive thing about this, I think, is just in terms of like another source of green technology, because there'll be less cars on the road.
Sure.
And I mean, I think for that reason,
it's a Prius there. So that's is that a Prius? Yeah, it's a Prius.
It's Toyota. The only I think the only partner Google has right now is Toyota.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only partner they need. Well, speaking of cars and speaking of driving everywhere, we touched on Uber at one point, but Uber is first of all, Uber is a wonderful app, car service. Is one of many now, and there's probably about 3 or 4 major ones, Lyft and some other ones. But Uber is, in my opinion, the best. And Uber is for those you don't know, it's an app that allows you to call it's a car service app. It's a transportation app, allows you to you sign up, you input your credit card ahead of time, and then and it knows exactly via GPS where you're at. You hit a button, a driver comes and picks you up, and then takes you anywhere you need to go and drops you off, and there's no money exchange. It goes right to your credit card, the tips included. The drivers are clean, nice, they're all trained by Uber, and it's a fantastic service. And it started in San Francisco. It's huge in San Francisco. It's actually huge in Los Angeles. It's actually doing really well in New York. It's all over the place except for Las Vegas, which we'll talk about in a second. But it's all over the place, and it's fantastic. So where we are with Uber right now is they're talking about phase 2, because Uber is it's a behemoth in terms of money and what it's done and how it's changed our culture again.
Yeah, it's making $20 million a week.
A week.
That's crazy.
$20 million a week, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And but. And also, I will say that what they do is they also train all their own drivers. This isn't a thing where, if you become an Uber driver, you have to sort of pass the Uber test.
Certain metrics that you have to meet.
Yeah, well, initially they had a full-blown driver's test, and they would do this thing. But I think they stopped doing that, but they still have this certain metrics and things you have to meet, and they're all, they have water, and they have candy, and they have gum, and they open the door for you.
Just the experience.
Yes. Anyway,
it's part of the brand.
What's interesting here is they're ready to enter to phase 2, and I'm like, phase 2? Like, what's phase 2? Because they're already everywhere. But phase 2 is, back to the Bezos model,
exactly.
Is delivery. Yeah. The big question for Uber is, why do cars only have to carry people?
Yeah.
And then I went
carry products.
Exactly.
I need some food.
Right.
Well, let's call the Uber service to deliver us our favorite restaurant.
Yep.
Or whatever. It could be products, anything.
I had a situation with Uber a couple weeks ago where I Ubered to a shoot I was doing for Extra in Beverly Hills, and I Ubered all the way across town, and I got there and I realized I didn't have my computer, I didn't have anything else, and so I wanted to send the Uber driver back to pick up my computer and come back, but I couldn't do that. There was no, he was like, I would, but I can't, and And that's when I thought, if only there were a service where I can be
connect those dots, right?
Just to connect those dots.
What do you think about this company, though, as it relates to, traditional taxi services and what it's doing to that business model and all those people that make a living off of driving taxis? Do you think it's killing that industry?
Oh, well.
Do you think it's, taking money out of their pockets? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, look, we can just jump right in because, we don't have much time. So let's just jump into our discussion. This is part of our discussion, which is, people are really concerned about companies like Airbnb, which I also love and use. I also love Airbnb, which is a service where you can basically find a place to live, find a place to stay in any city in the country. It's a short-term lease up to from anywhere from a couple days to a month. I use it all the time. I use it in New York all the time. I find great places in New York. I use it a lot. I love it. But people are very angry about Airbnb. The hotel industry, is not very happy about that. Tourism industries are not very happy about this. These are very established things are unhappy about things changing the status quo. So when you talk about companies like Uber and Airbnb who are going against these gigantic sort of lobbies and not lobbies, these unions like cabs and like hotels and like travel, there's a lot of fight here, and the fight here is, should the government sort of step in and shut down and place stricter regulations? And it gets, as always, the technology curve is way ahead of the legal curve, and the cultural curve is somewhere in the middle. And so we're stuck in the middle, like, I like Airbnb, but I like hotels, but I don't want this. I don't want to change either way. There's no laws, tell me what I can and can't do. Taxis, I hate taxis, but they gotta make a living. But I'll never use a taxi. I don't use taxis anymore ever, except when I'm in New York.
I hear you.
But I don't know. So to answer your question, yes, I think taxis are on the way out.
But how do you regulate? How do you regulate stuff like this? Like, because with certain hotels, like you can only have a hotel and it's zoned out. So like if you have Airbnb and you can find a spot wherever,
right,
and you can get a car wherever.
Yep.
Like, how do you regulate something like that? Because it seems like it could be like a a shit for all.
Well, you don't regulate it; you eliminate it. This is the problem.
Right.
This is what they want.
Right.
It's like everything. It's like the music industry. But this is what we do as a consumer culture. This is our biggest flaw, as our biggest capitalism flaw is, when you get to a certain point and you get large, I don't care if you're a company or an industry or culture, like if new technology comes along, you should embrace it. But what most people do instinctively is they grab tightly to what they have.
But what they have is like almost probably decades, generations of what they have. So I think it's appropriate to grab onto what your traditions, grab onto what you built your empire on.
Yeah, but you have to be smart. Like obviously we've talked about this before, the music industry,
or like with Blockbuster.
Well, okay, but even before that, the music industry Napster came along. The music industry spent millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars fighting Sean Fanning and fighting Napster, and this is horrible, and and then guess what? They lost.
Yeah.
Had any of those people just said, they could have bought Napster for a teeny tiny fraction of what it cost to fight them, and it would have changed everything. Yeah. Same thing with Blockbuster. They could have easily.
So you're saying
bought Netflix.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Well, I mean, for these, you should figure out a way to embrace Uber in your unions. These limousine services that are so upset, the taxi cab unions are so upset. Figure out a way to incorporate these, or figure out to incorporate Uber. Like in New York, you could Uber. The cabs are included in the Uber. So the way Uber works is you have an Uber X car, it's like a Prius. You have a black car, like a Lincoln Navigator, and you have a giant SUV. Well, in New York, you can also choose a cab, which is cool. So that's a smart way of doing that.
Well, why would you ever choose a cab? Like, what's the benefit of doing that? Just because there's more of them?
Yes, okay. Availability. Yeah, you can Uber a cab, and then people will show up, and this cab companies have embraced it in New York.
That makes sense.
In Vegas, they are not embracing it.
See, in New York, it's more of a cab culture versus out here. It's not really a cab culture.
No, but it is a cab culture. It's kind of split the difference in San Francisco, but it is a huge cab culture in places like Las Vegas. Las Vegas is at least Metro Las Vegas, Strip area.
Yeah,
it's a giant cab culture, and so Uber would just. It would challenge everything they're doing. And same thing with Airbnb. In fact, Airbnb and Uber are Vegas's worst nightmares. Because it's really interesting. I just wish that we can figure out a way to, when new technology like this comes about, or to figure out a way to incorporate them and bring them in, as opposed to spending all this time and energy trying to shut them down. Because right now it's like the fight is shut down Airbnb, shut them down. Like as if they'll just go away forever and there won't be another Airbnb. Shut down Uber, as if like Lyft or anyone else won't come along. It's like, what are we talking about?
But I think you need that fight. I think you need that conflict to be able to promote the innovation. Because with that fight, what that's going to do is going to ask questions. It's going to try to like pinpoint where the weaknesses are and how you can make it stronger and better and more effective for all parties. And so. Right. I wouldn't say eliminate the fight, eliminate tradition. I would say, hold on to your roots, but still innovate and converge. But like that discussion is appropriate. That discussion is necessary so that you can have. Uber is going to evolve it on itself.
Yeah,
and just like Facebook,
they're going to start delivering shit.
Exactly.
That's what phase 2, which we glossed over. But phase 2 of Uber is they're going to start delivering things. Yeah. They're going to start, maybe joining forces with Jeff. Maybe Jeff Bezos and Amazon will buy Uber and then really take over the world.
And then maybe they'll have like the Google cars.
Yeah, maybe they'll use Google cars.
No drivers. So it's all profit.
That's it. And then Shane from Vice Media will put the small screens in all the cars.
Exactly, and I'll have on my fucking
your brain cam.
Exactly.
Well, that's a good way to bring it all home. And Beyonce will release her album for all of that in real time. Thank you. That's it for us this week. Thank you for joining us on Geek Nerd Tech, the show we break down nerd culture, tech news from a brown and black geek perspective. I'm Joe Braswell. Keely Shine, where can we find you, sir?
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Achilles Shine. And definitely check me out on some of my web properties, liveelevated.com and behindthehustle.com.
That's right. And you can find me at Joe K. Braswell on Twitter. Also on Instagram. My Instagram game is going to step up at Joe Braswell. And on AfterBuzz and a few shows, Blacklist and some other, and Justified and a bunch of others coming in January. And on Grantland, where Keely and I did some nice work. Particularly Compton Cricket Club. Check that one out because that's up for some awards.
Absolutely.
And thank you. And we'll see you next week.
Absolutely.
Or actually, we won't. We'll see you after the break.
Yeah, top of the year.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Speakdeck, Dario Kristen, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in to the Black Hollywood Live Network. If you have questions or comments, tweet us at BHL Online or email us at info@blackhollywoodlive.com. For more exclusive content, visit blackhollywoodlive.com. This has been a presentation of the Black Hollywood Live Network.
Hollywood Redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.
Thanks for watching Black Hollywood Live on YouTube. For more in-depth interviews and news, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion in the comment section below here. See you soon, everyone. Bye.